Welcome back, everyone. We have spoken about why tattoos are expensive, but today I want to tackle something that I know frustrates a lot of you guys, and it might even cause massive confusion when you're planning your next project, and touch a bit on the sheer lack of consistency in how artists actually calculate their prices. One artist may quote you by the hour, while another artist gives you a flat fee. You go to a third one, and then he gives you a range that seems somewhat completely arbitrary. It makes you feel like you're playing a game of chance. They're just making it up on the spot based on how much money they think you have. And well, I'm here to tell you that stops today. The confusion you feel is not necessarily your fault, nor is it necessarily the artists being dishonest. The issue is that the tattoo industry, as we explored in our standards video, operates on vastly different economic models simultaneously. And if you don't know the model the artist is using for your project and why they choose it, you have a hard time projecting your own budget or even understanding if you're getting value for your money. So, this is going to be the deepest dive I've ever seen on the internet on this topic. Today, I'm going to give you a masterclass level framework that will empower you to look at any quote in any style in any part of the world and understand what exactly is happening. And this is not about clickbaiting you, it's about real transparency. We're going to break down the actual structures, the hourly, the piece prices, minimums, and project based rates. I'm going to explain when each model is going to be used, why each artist prefers it, and why it might be a massive con for you, and how you can specifically negotiate and structure your request to get a pricing model that offers you the most financial clarity and maximum value. Let's begin with the absolute foundation of the industry with the hourly rate. This is the default setting for most artists and especially street shops that prioritize high volume. And even for some established artists who are doing ongoing larger pieces like full sleeves or full back pieces. On the surface, it seems simple enough. The artist sets a rate, let's say $100 an hour. And then you sit for 4 hours, you pay $400. But that's a little bit of where some of the confusion starts. And I would like to give you a little bit of clarity. What exactly constitutes the hour? Are you paying for the time the stencil is being drawn? Are you paying for the setup and breakdown time? Are you paying for the consultation time? Are you paying for the half hour to an hour the artist uses to find that perfect reference while you're sitting waiting for the design? A professional and ethical artist would be very clear. Their rate should actually reflect the actual labor. The primary hour is generally defined as the needle on skin time, is the active work of applying the tattoo. Setup and cleanup time are overhead costs that should be built in to the hourly rate system, not added as extra hours on top. So, if an artist uses the active sitting time to look up references and draw up a sketch of your design, which they should have prepared beforehand, they are quite frankly using their time inefficiently, in a word. Now, let's look at this model from both perspectives because understanding the artist's needs is the key to getting to negotiating the best sort of result. From the artist's side, the hourly rate is a fundamental guarantee of fairness and risk management. This is critical because tattooing has countless variables. Every client's skin behaves differently. Some skin accepts the ink effortlessly, while some skin is tough and you kind of have to work the ink in, which ends up being a slightly slower process. Some clients sit perfectly still, and some clients won't stop fidgeting. Some clients might require complex color packing or saturation that ends up simply taking longer than estimated. By using the hourly rate, the artist guarantees that their labor and their time, their absolute most valuable and finite resource, is always compensated. They don't end up being penalized if a project ends up being unexpectedly complex. This is essential for long form work where the details might evolve over the session. It prevents the artist from feeling pressured to rush that work just to meet the flat rate quote. And rush work always leads to inferior tattoo or tattooing. And that is a failure on both the artist and the client's side. But now let's shift the perspective. What is the major con for you as the client? The primary con for an hourly rate is that unlimited variable risk. And this is the part that generates the most frustration. Understandably so. An artist might quote you a 4 hour estimate. That estimate is often a guess based on average skin behavior. Let's say that guess turns into an 8 hour session because of maybe your skin behavior or your inability to sit still. Or you might have unexpectedly sensitive spots. Or perhaps the artist just works slower than you anticipated. Now that initial quote or estimate just doubled. This isn't just an inconvenience, it's a massive financial shock. And it makes it impossible for you to plan your budget with clarity. It makes it impossible for you to plan your budget with clarity. And it also unfortunately creates an environment where an unethical artist might slow down the way that they work just to pad that bill. It happens. So the question you must ask is, when is the hourly model the right model for you? And is this the specific framework that has the meat you're looking for? Like the hourly rate is your best choice, or sometimes your only choice, in these two specific scenarios for at least large scale work. Scenario one, extremely large scale work, for example, where the work that it entails can constantly evolve as the sessions progress. And the core concept here is that if there are a lot of variables to that session, then at least everyone is protected. A full sleeve, for example, or a full back piece cannot be accurately quoted by even your very top tier artists with accuracy. There are just too many variables. For example, how the layers heal or how complex the details become over time. If the work is ongoing and you are dealing with a top tier artist, then it'll be safe to go with the hourly rate and pay that master craftsman for their work. Your certainty comes from trusting this artist's efficiency and character, and not necessarily the final total. And then we have the second scenario where you want like a number of small little tattoos. If you're going to the same artist over and over again to get random small tattoos that you feel like getting, perhaps from flash sheets or any kind of random inspiration on even on the internet. You don't necessarily want to request a flat rate for those pieces. Requesting flat rates for small little tattoos that can be done fairly quickly will, for each individual piece, will almost always result in a much higher bill than having them like done according to some sort of an hourly rate. That's if you're calculating it over the long term, you know. Hourly is designed for bulk order, if that makes sense. If you want 10 simple symbols added, a professional artist might give you a bulk 4 hour, like quote, and then bang them all out, moving seamlessly from one to the next, making sure that you end up with the best possible value for money in that arrangement, where you get the maximum amount of ink for the minimum cost. Now, I think that we have deeply looked at the hourly rate. I think it's time for us to pivot to the next pricing model, which is by the piece or like a flat rate for each piece model. This is what most of you want, where you show or look at a completed design and decide where you want to place it, the size that you want to place it, and then you get the quote, finish and clap. This pricing model is one of the most common models when you're looking for custom realism, black work, or high detailed custom work, or any other artist that focuses on specific complex results. This is the model that offers you complete financial clarity. And this would be the value for you. This model protects you from any variabilities in skin behavior, slow working artists, or any unexpected breaks. You know the exact cost before you even sit down, and your budget is secure. But as always, there's always pros and cons to everything. Let's look at why artists sometimes use this and why it can even sometimes work against you. From the artist's perspective, piece pricing is about shifting the focus from the labor of doing the work to the outcome. When an artist is highly skilled and specialized, they're not just providing you with minutes of tattooing, they're providing you the specialized technical expertise to achieve. They understand that the high quality realism portrait should cost X amount, whether it takes them 4 hours or 8 hours. By using this model, the artist is rewarded for efficiency and speed. If they work fast and they're able to produce a masterpiece efficiently, they might end up getting paid more per minute. This incentivizes them to refine their craft and operate at peak technical performance. It also, most importantly, allows them to have control over their own creative vision. They can take a little bit extra time on detail that they feel is essential without worrying about punishing the client financially. And what is the con for you? You might be asking, because it all sounds beautiful. This is critical to understand that when an artist is coming up with a flat rate for a piece, they are sometimes often calculating the worst possible scenario for their time. They need to build in a substantial buffer into their price to account for, let's say, you have tough skin, or maybe you might move a little bit much, or there might be some complications with the saturation in your case. If this buffer is not necessary in your case, you sit still, the color packs easily, then you might end up overpaying the per minute rate in that instance. In effect, you're paying a premium to guarantee that your cost does not actually end up increasing. But then you don't get a refund if the labor is easier than anticipated. Furthermore, per piece pricing can push artists to rush their work. If the artist realizes that they underquoted for a certain project, they might feel the pressure to finish quickly, prioritizing speed over safety or detail just to move on to the next paying client. This again may lead to a result that may not match your value. So, when do we use the per piece pricing? This is the specific advice you need for custom work. And it's also going to be the best choice when the design is 100% locked and custom. Two, the area that is being tattooed is small, but the tattoo itself is quite complex. And now we can move on to other pricing models apart from these two major pricing models. Here we have the minimum charge. This is where so many people get ripped off when they're getting small tattoos because whenever someone is charging, they kind of have to put into account all of the overhead expenses to come up with at least a minimum charge that makes sense for them to operate profitably in a viable manner. Generally, you're going to find that a tattoo that's going to take an hour or like anything less than an hour would probably be assigned that minimum. And now, if you want to get like multiple small tattoos and then you are only getting tattooed for 15 to 20 minutes in each session, you're going to find that in the long run, you are paying more than if you just had them bundled together in some sort of hourly rate structure. Because every tattoo, no matter how small, does require a sterile setup: new needles, new inks, new gloves. Um, the entire station needs to be set up with barrier film, and the list can go on quite a bit. And then on top of that, you kind of also have the cleanup time and getting rid of the setup that the artist also has to do when they're done with your session. I guess there isn't much else to really dwell on this pricing model. It's kind of straightforward and self-explanatory. Next, we need to understand the project-based or the day rate pricing model. This is a hybrid model that established artists usually use for continuous ongoing work. Like, let's say you have a full sleeve or like a full back piece that you're trying to work on. The value here for you as the client is that you have a capped amount that you're expected to pay per session. So you're not going to get a surprise bill of um, an exorbitant amount because it ended up running several more hours than anticipated. This kind of pricing model also kind of creates a professional environment where you have the artist's undivided attention for that entire day, and they're not necessarily rushing for the next paying client or trying to make some sort of like finish within the targeted hourly rate type of situation. But as with everything, there's a con. What is the con for the day rate, you might ask? Primarily, the biggest con of the day rate is underutilization. Let's say you booked for a 7 hour day rate, and then for whatever reason, at hour number four, let's say the client can't handle the pain, or for whatever reason, you have to sort of stop early. You've paid for the full day, but then you're only getting a couple of hours worth of work. Because there's instances even when, let's say, the artist finishes the scope of work that he had assigned for a session within 5 hours. If he had planned to do that specific set of work, there's really no reason to keep going. If it wasn't part of the plan, if it's someone who's trying to follow a structured way of tackling a piece for, because there's so many reasons why artists make decisions about the work that they want to put in a certain session. Maybe they want to see this healed in a certain way before they can move to the next phase of how they want to build that sleeve up or that back piece or whatever the piece is. And unlike the hourly rate, with the day rate, you do not necessarily get a prorated, you must still pay the full day's rate. So essentially, as a client, you kind of take on the entire risk of early stoppage. So I hope understanding these different pricing models kind of helps you come up with a mental framework on how to go about selecting what kind of pricing model might work best for you depending on your situation. This is the kind of pricing that we encourage on our platform at alistattoos.com, and all the artists that you're going to see on there, and even the artists that are going to join and create profiles as we continue building it out for the tattoo space built for tattoo artists by a tattoo artist. And yeah, we would like to empower you with the pricing framework so that you understand it. And when you get a quote from any of our artists, you're not just getting a number, you're getting a professional assessment based on decades of technical expertise, depending on which artist you go for, as well as a deep understanding of your specific project. We believe that a client who understands the value that they are receiving is a confident client. And a confident client almost always gets a better tattoo. My name is Washington. Thanks for watching up until this point. I'd like us to start some sort of discussion in the comment section below about what you may or may not have learned from this video, what you think was left out, what you think was maybe put in unfairly, or what your experiences have been with how you've been receiving your pricing over the years. I'd like to hear what your most expensive tattoo was, and what sort of pricing model was actually used, and what was your cheapest tattoo, and what pricing models was used there, and where did you find or receive the best kind of work? What sort of pricing model was the artist using there? These are all insights that I think would be interesting for me to read and understand, and I'm sure other people would also find great value in the shared information. Till next time, keep getting in.